A wife suggested starting a family of 3 to her husband, but an unexpected turn of events made the husband come up with a revenge plan. When Ronnie returned to town, I sensed a shift in the dynamics. He had once been my wife's fiancé. Cindy and Ronnie had parted ways a year before I entered the picture. She didn't hide the fact that Ronnie had shattered her heart when he chose to end things and marry a wealthier woman 10 years his senior. I started dating Cindy despite her not possessing the glamorous looks of a model or movie star. She had a soft brown mane, brown eyes, and a lovely face. Yet it was her compassionate heart that drew me to her. We tied the knot about a year later, and our daughter Amanda arrived 9 months after that. For 18 out of our 19 years together, life was good. We had our disagreements, typically arising when we shared responsibilities. Cindy, being the only child, had been indulged by her parents. Over time, she learned to curb her stubbornness. When Amanda was born, she became my little princess, and our family thrived. However, over the past year, Cindy and I felt a growing distance. We seemed to be doing less together, although our intimate life remained vibrant, occurring at least twice a week. Cindy appeared happiest when we were close, cuddling. I still loved her, but it was different, not the fiery passion of our early years. We felt like 2 well-worn shoes that had seen better days but still fit together snugly. Despite the changes, I loved my wife deeply and cherished the life we had built. As Amanda graduated from high school, Cindy's transformation accelerated. She seemed on the brink of a breakdown, especially as Amanda prepared to leave for college. I served as the chief of detectives for the sheriff's department, overseeing 32 detectives in this low-crime county. While my job wasn't overly stressful, Cindy, a dental hygienist, was showing signs of discomfort. About a month after Amanda's departure for college, Ronnie unexpectedly appeared at a barbecue hosted by John and Ann Smith, who were more Cindy's friends than mine. Despite the surprise, I got along well with John, who owned a security company. I had no clue Ronnie would be there, but Cindy did, immediately distancing herself from me. After a while, which wasn't uncommon, Cindy started circling. An hour later, I went in search of her and discovered her with Ronnie on the porch. As I approached, I noticed a slight flush on Cindy's neck, indicating she might be up to something I wouldn't like. She swiftly introduced me to Ronnie, and my gut, honed by years as a cop, signaled real trouble. Cindy tried to downplay it, claiming they were just reminiscing about old times, but her reddening neck betrayed her. I decided not to blow things out of proportion, recognizing the need to handle situations calmly and professionally, a challenge even for a seasoned police officer. The next working day, I discreetly checked on Ronnie through my channels. I learned that his wife had succumbed to cancer a year ago, and in all those years, Ronnie hadn't even received a speeding ticket, let alone faced other police issues. Over the ensuing months, Ronnie's presence in our lives increased, and I sensed it was no accident. I began preparing for the worst, anticipating that Cindy would eventually want to discuss something. Despite my preparations, Cindy caught me off guard. We had just finished a rare morning lovemaking session, and I thought my concerns might be unfounded. It was evident she still loved me deeply when she nervously said, "Ted, I want to talk to you about something. I don't want you to be angry. Let me finish before you say anything." My stomach flipped as she continued, Ronnie was my first love. We were engaged, but he fell in love with Catherine, and we broke up. After his wife died, he was devastated. He's lonely, and he tells me he still loves me. I have to admit, I still love him. But at the same time, I love you. I remained silent, attempting to control my breathing and stay composed, which seemed to give Cindy the courage to smile and continue. "I still want to be your wife, but I also want to be with Ronnie. We talked it over and decided it would be fair for me to stay with you for a week and him for a week." I slipped out of bed, got dressed, and left without a word. Heading to my office, I closed the door, signaling to the receptionist not to disturb me unless it was something serious. Alone in the dimly lit office, I pondered the selfish proposal my wife had made. It was clear to me that Cindy wanted to straddle 2 chairs, an impossible scenario. She would have to make a choice. Around 5 o'clock, I returned home, visibly annoyed at the sight of Ronnie's car in the driveway. Despite my efforts to maintain composure, my police training hadn't prepared me for this. In the living room, I found them sitting nervously. Cindy stood up to kiss me, but I pushed her away, indifferent to her pain. "We need to talk about this," Cindy nervously suggested. "We don't have anything to talk about," I replied shortly. "You either want to be with him or with me. You can't have both." Ronnie chimed in, stating that he wasn't looking to take me away, but to provide Cindy the extra love she needed. My inner rage surged as he suggested I should let Cindy sleep with him for the sake of her needs. Both of them made me cringe, and in that moment, I realized my marriage was over. Except I declared fiercely, looking at Ronnie, the marital duty of giving up all the others. "No, I'm not going to agree to that, Ted." Cindy, with a now upset expression, insisted it would happen, and the question was whether or not I would be a part of it. "No," I asserted. "Both of you leave." Cindy burst into tears, pleading with me. "Ted, please give me this. I've been a faithful wife all these years. Ronnie was my first love, but I don't want to lose you. I love you so much, but I love Ronnie too." I snorted, turning to Ronnie. "Tell me, Ronnie, if your late wife had come to you with a similar offer, would you have accepted it?" He smiled and nodded, saying, "If it could make my wife happy, I'd gladly accept it." I said that with more force than I meant to, but I want to follow through with my thoughts. I turned to Cindy, asking, "What about you, Cindy? If I came home with an ex-girlfriend and told you I wanted you to share me with her, how would you feel about that?" Cindy hesitated for a few seconds before answering. "I'd probably be upset like you are right now, but in the end, I'd agree because I really love you and want you to be happy." Shaking my head, I continued, more of Cindy. "I'm going to contact my lawyer in the morning to negotiate a divorce. I think the division of assets should be pretty straightforward. The house only has a small mortgage, and once that is paid off, we will split the proceeds. Our investments, savings, and current accounts will be divided. Amanda's college fund will remain untouched. There will be no alimony since you'll be living with Ronnie. Now, both of you please leave." Cindy was in tears as Ronnie took her hand, walking to the door. She turned to me and said, "If you change your mind, I love you very much." As soon as they left, the silence of the house enveloped me. I felt empty inside, but my years on the force had taught me resilience. I compartmentalized the pain, closed the emotional box, and went to my office to make a list of what needed to be done. I knew the kind of lawyer I needed, Sally Lingon, known as a real shark in divorce proceedings. She usually represented wives, and the poor husbands never knew what hit them. As I looked over the list, I realized there was one thing I hadn't done yet. I needed to call Amanda and let her know what was going on. It broke my heart to have to tell my little girl what her mother was doing. Amanda took a full 5 minutes to calm down before expressing her surprise. "That damn woman did this to you, Daddy?" she said venomously. "All these years you've been so good to her, to us, and now she's stabbing you in the back. If she does that, I want nothing to do with her." I calmly responded, "You're very upset right now, and I understand how you feel. But Cindy is your mother, and she loves you unconditionally. Don't ruin your relationship with your mother over this. We'll all lose if you do. Can't you at least wait a few days before you talk to her? What if she calls me?" "If she does, I'll give her the full story. Please, if she calls, don't answer for a few days. Promise me you'll do that." Amanda reluctantly agreed to honor my request. Later that night, Cindy called me, expressing concern. She had tried to call Amanda, but was unable to reach her. I explained that I had spoken to our daughter and that she wanted to calm down before discussing the subject. Cindy accused me of turning Amanda against her. Cindy accused me, saying, "I bet you painted the most disgusting picture you could, Ted." "How can I paint a worse picture than you've already painted?" I replied calmly, knowing it would provoke her anger. "Your mother wants her father to let her sleep with another man." Before Cindy could respond, I decided to address one of the items on my list. "Oh, now that I have you on the line, you should hire a lawyer." "Please, Ted, don't do this," she cried. "It's killing me that you want me out of your life. I love you so much. Can't you give in to me a little?" "There's nothing to discuss, Cindy," I said, hanging up the phone. I took the next week off to focus on getting everything in order, but the nights were horrendous. Lying in bed alone was unbearably lonely. I would wake up and reach for Cindy, only to remember why she wasn't there. The first thing I did was call Sally, but I was unpleasantly surprised when she informed me that Ronnie had already contacted her. That bastard was secretive. He must have already figured out who the best divorce lawyer was, and now he's ahead of me. If I can't hire you, can you recommend someone I should hire? I asked. Ronnie contacted me, Sally snorted. I didn't say he hired me. In fact, I told him you'd already hired me. Wow, I said with great relief. I really appreciate you doing this, Sally. Ted, most men in this town think I'm a piece of, she said bitterly. You're one of the few who has always treated me with respect. You're one of the few who has tried your best to help me. I've always appreciated that. You'll still have to pay my fee, she added with a laugh. I really appreciate you, but I have to pay for the lights too. Not a problem, Sally. Thanks again. Even days later, the phone conversation between Cindy and Amanda didn't go well. According to both, it degenerated into a shouting match with ugly names thrown back and forth. Cindy called me afterward, almost hysterical, claiming she had lost her daughter forever. I promised to talk to Amanda and try to work things out, but it proved much harder than I could have imagined. Amanda was angry when I spoke to her a week later. According to my daughter, she told her mother that she wanted nothing to do with her. Cindy would not be invited to the prom or wedding, and if she had grandchildren, she would never meet them. Now I understood why Cindy was hysterical. The calls from Cindy continued until the day of the divorce. She kept begging me to reconsider and accept their plan. Of course, I continued to refuse. After the divorce, the calls stopped, and I tried to move on. Fortunately, my job as chief of detectives provided flexibility. Over the next 6 months, I became much more hands-on, guiding new detectives and reviewing unsolved cases. As a result of my efforts, we closed a long-forgotten murder case. The evidence had always been there, but it went unnoticed until my review. I received a commendation and a raise. About a month after the divorce, Cindy and Ronnie got married. They wanted to buy my half of the house, but the thought of Ronnie living there turned me inside out. Ronnie threatened to go to court to force me to sell it. I told Ronnie to go ahead and sue. I was on good terms with all the appraisers in town, and when I explained my situation, they all agreed to help. The appraisals came in much higher than the house was worth, yet Ronnie didn't care. He paid a ridiculously high price for my house, which irritated me, but there was nothing I could do about it. In the end, though I liked the result, I got a lot more money out of the sale than I anticipated. The divorce went better than I thought it would, and I have Sally to thank for that. Her analysis was so thorough that she found information that worked in my favor. The down payment on the house was inherited from my grandfather, making it not considered community property. As a result, I received about 75% of the sale proceeds. With that money, I bought myself a cash apartment not far from work. Life goes on, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. All those years with Cindy, and here she decided I wasn't enough. I tried to re-enter the dating scene, but it was even more depressing. Most of the women I dated came with a ton of baggage. Some were intimidating, and almost all were desperate to get married. I, on the other hand, wasn't interested in marriage. About 8 months after Ronnie and Cindy's wedding, I was having dinner at a restaurant, unaware they were there until Cindy sat down. I was surprised to see my ex-wife, but decided not to be nasty. I noticed Ronnie at a table on the other end, studying the menu. "How are you doing, Ted?" Cindy asked quietly. "I'm doing fine," I replied with a sad smile. "How are you doing?" "I still miss you every day," she said, placing her hand on top of mine. "I still love you very much. If you ever find it in your heart to accept Ronnie, I'd love to be with you again." Initially, I was going to pull my arm away and dismiss her, but then an idea struck me. "I miss you too, Cindy," I admitted honestly. "I hate waking up, and you're gone. But you're a married woman now. By the way, I think your husband is looking for you." Cindy looked at Ronnie, and he gave her a puzzled expression. She just nodded to him and stood up. "Remember, I still love you." That same night, I called Amanda and explained what I wanted to do. Initially horrified, she told me I was giving in. However, when I explained my reasons, she started giggling. The giggling turned into laughter. "That's just great, Daddy," Amanda finally said. Go for it. The next day, I called Cindy with my daughter's blessing and told her I wanted to talk to her and Ronnie. We agreed to meet at our old house at 7 o'clock that evening. Arriving at 7 sharp, Cindy led me into the living room. It was disheartening to see Ronnie sitting on the couch in my former home, but I took some satisfaction in the annoyed expression on his face. It was clear to me that Cindy had blamed this meeting on Ronnie, who glared at me like a dagger. I pretended not to notice anything. After pouring us each a cup of coffee, Cindy settled on the couch between Ronnie and me. I got right to the point. Cindy, what did you mean when you said the offer to share still stands? A smile appeared on Cindy's face. Yes, absolutely. The offer still stands. I told you that I still love you deeply. It's just that I love Ronnie too. Well, if you agree, I said, trying to feign nervousness, I'd say yes. I don't have anyone right now, at least this way I'll have you part of the time. I've been so lonely without you. Cindy rushed over to me, kissing me passionately as we had never kissed before. Oh, Ted, you've made me the happiest woman in the world. Wait a minute, Ronnie said, standing up. We haven't discussed this yet. It's the same thing you suggested. I told Ronnie calmly, yes, but still, Cindy and I need to discuss it first. Ronnie was very excited. We've already discussed it, Cindy said, a little surprised by Ronnie's objection. When did we discuss it? Ronnie blushed. Don't forget, we discussed it before we presented Ted with the plan. You said you were more than willing to share. Ronnie was discouraged by his own words, and there was nothing he could do about it. Still, he wasn't going to give up so easily. I still think we need to talk about it. The thought of pointing out to Ronnie what a hypocrite he was on my tongue. It was the same deal he'd offered me, but now the shoe was on the other foot. He was the husband, and I was the ex. However, I decided to let this drama play out between Cindy and Ronnie without my involvement. Okay, I'll leave and wait to hear from you, I said, kissing her before leaving. Once back in the car, I started laughing. I had switched roles with Ronnie, and now he was wriggling like a worm. I wished I had been a fly on the wall that night. The next day, I got a call from Cindy saying that Ronnie was very upset. Still, when she told him she was going to leave, he agreed. Cindy would spend 1 week with me and 1 week with Ronnie. Of course, at Ronnie's insistence, none of this could be done until I was tested for STDs. I agreed on the condition that they both get tested as well. Cindy didn't object, but Ronnie was not happy. As it turned out, we were all clean. The next week, I stopped by to pick up Cindy. She looked good when she came to the door, but Ronnie, on the other hand, looked like he had murder on his mind. I grabbed Cindy, kissed her hard, then took her 2 suitcases, and we walked out. I decided that I would do everything I could to make this night special. We went out to dinner, then to a dance, and finally back to my apartment. I want you inside me, she whispered. When you're inside me, I know you still love me. I loved Cindy, but not enough to want her to be my wife again. We lay there and cuddled until I fell asleep. The week went by quickly and very pleasantly. I had to work, so I told Cindy she could go home for the day if she wanted. Cindy was adamant that she was my wife for the week, making me cringe inwardly. Still, if that's what she wanted to believe, that was fine with me. All I was interested in was Ronnie's wife. She cleaned the house, went grocery shopping, washed my clothes, cooked meals, and even set our dinner times. I had a blast. I even got Amanda to talk to her mother without yelling at her. Of course, Amanda was aware of my plan, and I'm sure she laughed at how clueless her mother was. As I drove Cindy home, Ronnie looked both pleased and angry. Whatever anger was simmering inside him, he kept it in check. He kissed Cindy passionately right in front of me. I just pecked Cindy on the cheek, said, "I love you," and left. For the next 3 months, our new agreement was honored. This arrangement was great for me, especially since it was Cindy's suggestion. I was now getting laid 6 or 7 times a week. Another benefit was that I convinced Amanda to come home and spend some time with us. I'm not sure if my daughter did this because she missed her mother or if she was making fun of her. Maybe 2 months after this new arrangement began, I was checking on my 3 detective teams working different crime scenes. Just then, a call came over the radio about a disturbance at Nick's Tavern. Since I was only a block away, I decided to check it out for myself. When I got there, I found that there had been an altercation with a drunken customer. I was surprised to find out that the drunk was Ronnie. I decided to take care of the problem. After letting the two officers go, I turned to Ronnie. "Come on, Ronnie," I said, taking his hand. "I'll take you home." "I don't need your help," Ronnie protested. "Your choice is either I take you home or you go to jail. What's better for you?" He decided to take the ride home. All the way to my old house, we didn't say a word. When he got out of my car, all he said was, "You." By the 4th month, Ronnie was less and less happy about our arrangement. He and Cindy argued about it more and more. He wanted it to stop, but Cindy couldn't understand why I didn't interfere in their discussions. I just kept telling Cindy that she was wonderful and continued to get all the sex I wanted for a week. This arrangement allowed me to sleep with her much more than when we were married. Finally, when I came to pick up Cindy for a week about 5 months after our agreement, things came to a boil. Ronnie and Cindy were yelling at each other in the yard, and I decided to try to calm them down. "I think you guys should calm down," I said with a smirk, "or someone will call the police." "You," Ronnie threw angrily before turning to Cindy again. "If you go with him, then our relationship is over. We had a deal." "The agreement is," Ronnie yelled, "and I'm telling you again that if you go with him, it's over." "You can't be serious," Cindy said in a dismissive tone. "You were the one who came up with the idea of the exchange a long time ago." With those words, Ronnie stormed into the house and slammed the door shut. I looked at Cindy questioningly. "He's just having a bad day," Cindy said, taking my hand. "He'll get over it, and everything will go back to normal." Things didn't go back to normal. Apparently, Ronnie had moved out. Cindy tried to talk to him, but he was adamant. They were done. Around noon on Wednesday, Cindy called me and told me what had happened. "He left me, Ted," she said, sobbing. "Can I move in with you?" "Yes, I'll be at your place on Monday when it's time for my regular week," I said cheerfully. "But Ronnie's gone," Cindy said, confused. "I want to come back to you completely. I realize I made a huge mistake. Everything Ronnie said about sharing was just to keep us apart. I want things to go back to the way they were." "Well, you see, Cindy," I said, feigning embarrassment, "you wanted me to share you. You didn't want me to work full-time, so I'm used to you being just a part-time wife. I don't think that's changed with Ronnie gone. So you still want me to pick you up on Monday?" Cindy started sobbing uncontrollably, and silence followed. For a moment, I thought she had hung up, but the bitter sobbing resumed. Finally, after several attempts, Cindy regained her speech and stammering said, "Yes, yes, please, Ted. I'd really like it if you pick me up on Monday."